Do you have a story? Everybody has a story. What's your story? Have you really taken the time to share your story? Has someone taken the time to listen to your story? Well, listen to this episode and let's talk about how you can use your story for good. We all have a story. What's yours? This may sound familiar because it's actually an opening line to a popular movie, but it's also very true. We don't get through life without a story. Good, bad, indifferent. We all have stories. And they probably include all of the above. Having someone to actually listen and attune to, really listen to you and your story is therapeutic. It's healing to your soul. Hearing someone else's story is an honor and can also be healing to you as you listen. You get to see that you are not alone in having a past or a story, and you also see how they overcome, and it encourages you that you can be an overcomer as well. Our stories have the same potential for others. When we share and we are able to explain how we've overcome our story, it is a blessing for others. That's our testimony, and that's what we can do and help bring glory to God. When we look back, we want to look through a lens of how did God work in our story? What lessons did we learn? How do we need to use those lessons for our future? This is actually a part of how we would reframe our story. It's not like we can literally go back and change it. It happened. But we can choose to reframe it by looking at the good that came out of it. And sometimes we even learn to let go of some parts of our story as we reframe it so that we can be better prepared for the future that God has for us. Are you holding on too tightly to part of your story? Sometimes we hold on to the most painful parts, and we need to work through those. We need to spend the time healing, but then we can turn around and see how that can be used for good. Is a part of your past or your story playing on repeat for you? Do you continue to hurt yourself with your story by dwelling on it too much? If you've taken the time to heal from it, then you can move forward from it. And you don't have to dwell on it. As it comes back up, you'll remember the pain, but you'll also remember how it's been used for good, rather than it becoming a stumbling block. If your story happens to include a painful loss, look back at ways that you can focus on the good memories, on the very best parts of the story, on how that story has molded you, how that person influenced you, and how you can honor them in your future and the lessons that you learned, as well as the memories that you shared. If your story includes suffering harm in your past, which is also very common, allow those feelings to process, fully process. It often takes the help of a trained counselor or coach that can sit with you and spend some time healing. And once you've done that, look again for the lessons that were brought about through that pain. Let God use your pain for good to help others. It's actually made you who you are today. It's part of why you're so strong. And He may very well use it so that you can help others around you. If your story includes an unanswered problem or question, something that's always stumped you, one way to solve it is to just resign to the idea that Maybe it's not a problem that it doesn't have an answer. It doesn't mean to ignore it. Just choose your perspective. You have the agency to choose the perspective that you want. And you can label this problem or situation or unanswered situation in the way that you want to answer it. Example, if you see that you were praying for this certain job and you really felt like you earned it and deserved it, and surely that was going to happen for you, and then you didn't get it, but yet you can look back and see how God protected you by not answering the prayer you were praying, okay, and giving you that job, but rather He had a much better plan for you. So try to look back and see those little glimmers in there that bring you hope, and to make it not be the problem that it may have once felt like. Instead, to see it as a stepping stone to your future. Be very gentle with yourself and what you repeat to yourself, what you dwell on, the story that you tell. Be sure that you start to use this reframed story as you retell your story to yourself, because that's how you rewire your brain to be able to feel the good glimmers that come along with your story. That's how you start to let the lessons become the forefront of the story, and the pain will slowly ease its way to the back. Remember Lot's wife in the Bible? She is the only female that Jesus told us to remember. I find it very interesting when you realize that she actually looked back and she was so committed to the past that she never got to step into the future that God had for her. You could say that she got a little bit salty, and therefore she missed her entire bright future. So, what we want to think on is how to release the painful parts, hang on to the good parts and the lessons we've learned and the great memories that we have, and release those old things and step into the new. Step into the beautiful parts that God has for us. Because remember, our brain always wants to seek comfort and pleasure and avoid pain. So your brain may be wanting you to stay stuck in the past only because it is the known part. It's like a comfort zone. Even though it was painful, oddly, it's still a comfort zone. The future is the unknown. And so our brain doesn't always want us to step into something that could be pain. It could be uncomfortable. The past is known, even when it's hard, but the future is not. So our brain likes to use that comfort option of the past to keep us stuck there. We may not know all the details of our future, but we certainly know the one who goes before us, and we can trust him with our future. Until next time, this is my hope for you. May you find glimmers of hope everywhere. Be sure to follow and share this podcast. You can find me at stephaniejohns.com. You can use the show notes below for coaching and to join my email list, Hope and Wellness. Be sure to grab that mental health checklist and my favorite planner. All of this and more in the show notes below.